Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple show. I am here with our host, Dr. Bart Precourt, who has been a healthcare practitioner for over 20 years, practicing a range of modalities, including chiropractic, acupuncture, kinesiology, functional nutrition and supplementation, and lab testing, all out of his clinic, Balance Health Studio in Seagrove Beach, Florida, as well as virtually all around the world. So he's also the founder of the Health Edge program, which is a cutting-edge health program for entrepreneurs and executives looking to take their health to the next level. He's also worked with athletes and celebrities all around the world. And tonight we're going to kick off with some clinical insights.
Yeah, we'll start off with, I really have two that I want to dive into tonight, and kind of random. Again, I'll do these clinical insights of things I run across on a daily basis, and that could show up and just be good, useful information, or see how I navigate through some of these different situations. Because I think over all these years, I realized that so many people have a lot of the same challenges, and they might not know where to go, might not know what to do. So I'll give you some clinical insights, to give you an inside look of how I might approach things, from the inside out here. So, first one is a sprained ankle. So this is a gentleman. He's in his 40s. He does a lot of travel, airports and planes and all that kind of stuff. So he sprained, I forget how he even sprained his ankle, but it happened about 3 weeks ago. And so when I saw him after his travels, he came in and he had his ankle wrapped and he was on crutches. So now at this point, he has developed other issues that he didn't really correlate. A knee problem on the opposite side, and also a hip problem on the opposite side. So in all of this, he scheduled an appointment to see his orthopedic.
Okay.
And so he saw his orthopedic, and listen, this is common stuff. You got a knee problem, you got a hip problem, you got, an ankle problem. Sometimes people don't correlate that maybe the knee and hip problem were actually caused by the sprained ankle and the fact that you are now putting weight on one side of your body. So anyways, he goes to his orthopedic. They run a whole bunch of x-rays, and the x-ray his hip, and the x-ray his ankle, and the x-ray his knee, like a lot of x-rays. Put him in a boot on his foot, like one of those, that's what they call them, like a boot, this big plastic thing. So it's kind of like a semi-soft cast or semi-hard cast. Wrap it up and send him on his way with pain meds and anti-inflammatories. And I'm not knocking this, but this is very common. And this is way overkill, and it won't help him get 1 second healthier, 1 bit healthier, especially not with his ankle. So the most common ankle sprain that's out there is what we call rolling your ankle. It is literally when you roll it and you roll to the outside. So your foot kind of goes on the inside. Very common. And during that roll, Karen, it's very frequent that we tear something called the spring ligament. There's 3 little attachments down in there, and often you tear it, and no, it does not heal. You can sprain it sometimes, and they can heal up, and they will be a little looser when they heal. And that is why many of us who've been athletes, or you've just been hard on your body. You've sprained your ankle when you were young. It happened a couple other times through the course of your life. And you learn how to live with it. And your body, as amazing as it is, it learns how to create a stable environment around it. So what did I do with the gentleman? So when he tells me this, well, I didn't even have to tell me. I saw him hobbing on. I said, what'd you do? What'd you do? And he said, well, I rolled my ankle, sprained my ankle, and they put me in a boot. I said, all right, first things first. I got him out of the boot. So listen, first thing I want to say to everyone, this is not medical advice for anyone. This is just some of the things that I do in my clinic, and I know a lot of my patients, so I know where and how to bring them down the path of healing. So first thing I did, I got them out of the boot, because we talked about, I think in a couple of shows past, Karen, how the body remodels to stress. And I want him to get a lot more intuitive. And this is the conversation. So I want you to listen to your body, be very intuitive. And as you can, put a little bit of lightweight on this. Let's do that. That'll help you heal faster. Oftentimes a good strategy is, what would I do if I was in the woods by myself and you rolled your ankle? Yeah, it's actually a great strategy. Maybe you'd get a stick to help hop along. You'd put less weight on it. And then over time, as it felt a little better, you put your ankle down. Here's really what I want to get to. So in a nutshell, so he was putting some weight on it. He said, I've been doing that at home. Just doesn't feel right to keep this boot on. So through the airports and everything, he did that. He's having these crutches. It's just, the whole thing's a mess. It's just not comfortable. And quite frankly, it's sprained ankle. He didn't fracture anything, didn't break it. He had all the x-rays. So that's how I know that. Looked at it, it was blown up. It was black and blue. And that's what I expect. You do have some soft tissue damage. So you do get some discoloration. So anyways, and this is the point here. When you have a sprained ankle, you often develop an ankle misalignment, or really what we call the mortise joint misalignment, which is really where your two leg bones meet your foot or meet your ankle. And there's one specific bone called your talus that does what we call an anterior subluxation and moves forward. And if you put it back in position, you get better alignment, and almost immediately you can walk properly.
Wow.
You still have like literally almost immediately your mechanics come back. And that's very, very important, because in the sprained ankle, between rolling the ankle and then the inflammation, often you develop a misalignment in the actual ankle joint, and it doesn't go away. You got to get it reset. That, at least ideally, maybe over time, long periods of time, or it develops and you kind of compensate in the healing, and you develop a change. You change your gait, you change your foot ankle. The foot doesn't drop, like it doesn't essentially roll the way it's supposed to. So literally in one visit, all right, just bear with me. Might be a little uncomfortable. Most likely not, but it could be. I adjust his ankle and makes this, it's not uncommon, it makes this big popping noise. And literally he starts wiggling it around. And that's not what I want him to do, but he starts wiggling around. He's like, wait a minute, what happened there? And I said, well, listen, the soft tissue part of it, the muscles, tendons, and ligaments that you sprained or tore in there, usually after 7 or 10 days, they're migrating themselves back together. Their soft tissue starting to connect. Diet, of course, counts and all that. Yet the misalignment could have lasted a long period of time. And it is that misalignment that kept him from being weight bearing, because every time he put his foot on the ground, it hurt. Oddly enough, and he would point to the front of his ankle, not the side. The side is where the tear is. And you point to the front. And that's where most people do when they sprain their ankle, post-ankle sprain, they point to the front of it. So anyways, adjust his ankle literally in one visit, walks out without his boot. And it's not uncommon. So I think the reason I'm sharing this, that if you mess something up physically, you've rolled an ankle, you sprained something, you jammed something, have the wherewithal to go see a doctor or physical therapist or some kind of person who is going to physically, if you messed it up physically, they're going to do something physically for you, where they work with soft tissue, stretch it out, stabilize it, re-strengthen it, or make an adjustment. So real important that we understand where healing comes from and what kind of damage we've done to the body. So he's kind of blown away. He thinks that I walk on ice or walk on water right now. I told him this is in our world, the old school chiropractors who are still out there. Not all chiropractors adjust extremities, but any of us that have been involved with athletics or do kinesiology, we all adjust extremities. And that's what you'd be looking for, a chiropractor that adjusts extremities. And this is just part of what we do. If it has a joint, it has an ability to be misaligned. And that is a very, very common way. What's very interesting is that talus joint, for a lot of women who wear high heels, they develop a chronic misalignment there, which creates chronic neck pain and headaches. It's so common. I get them out of their high heels, adjust their ankles, and they literally feel like different human beings. So just to throw that out there, it's a little clinical insight. If you are out there and you're used to wearing high heels or lifted, where the heel is lifted up, it pushes that bone called the talus anterior. And it's not like you feel this big dislocation, because that's not what it is. It's a subluxation, which is short of being dislocated. So it's still functional, but it's not ideal. It's not optimal. And that changes the mechanics of the whole body. So then, of course, there's other side, knee and pelvis and everything. So we align the spine, we get everything adjusted up. And again, he literally thinks I walk on water. But I told him, no, listen, the body has these incredible healing, recuperative powers. We just have to, one, get out of the way. And then if we can help facilitate that healing, that really is the goal. And that's why having a team, of different practitioners, chiropractors, physical therapists, massage therapists, acupuncturists, your doctors, whoever it may be, that can help facilitate the healing. That's really the name of the game. So I thought I'd share that one. That's always some fun stuff that happens. And then And the second clinical insight I want to share with you is, so I have a young lady and she's in perimenopause. And this is going to kind of wrap into one of the questions I saw that was sent in. She's in there today and she eats clean. She's in perimenopause. She's in her early 50s and eat clean diet. And I know her, she's done multiple of our cleanses. I would probably say she's 95% organic. A lot of really good things, but still has a gut issue.
Okay.
So you say, well, how can that happen? And she's even done the cleanse and stuff. There's a very specific way that we have to heal up the gut.
And the gut issue is having pain, diarrhea, constipation, something like that.
Bloating, sort of yes. So there's a couple key things here. One, the perimenopause is huge. Okay. The influx in the wave of hormone imbalances, the estrogen dominance, the lack of all hormones, that constantly is influencing even the microbiome in the gut itself. Okay. Or there's that part, Karen. Then there's also eating under duress. I can't emphasize this enough. When we are stressed and we still eat, we're going to have we're going to have a digestive issue.
Yeah, which would be so huge for so many people. I mean, how many people eat on the run, eat at their desk, eat while working? Yeah, or just are really stressed that day while you're eating, or even eat because we're stressed.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's me right there. So this particular,
I'm laughing because
this particular lady, she works at home and she eats at her desk.
Yeah.
Time constraints, whatnot. It's just more convenient, or she just works hard and she's just kind of multitasking. So that's when we have to consider going back to the 4 R's, where we have to remove all the bad stuff. And in this scenario, most of that's taken place. That's where we also might need to add in some good things to help digest foods. That's where we use digestive enzymes. And then we have to repair the damage. That's the leaky gut. That in this situation, that's probably been addressed as a side effect of just having a much better lifestyle. But yet healing leaky gut has to be essentially a steady process. And that steady process is an intentional, I would say at least 1 year, Karen. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that time frame. It doesn't mean you have to wait a year to feel well, but to really solidify and heal up the gut and create some tight junctions again. And knowing that lining, that permeability is very, very thin. So it can be damaged very easily again. So healing that up, of course, so we got to repair it. We have to replace all the bad guys. We have to replace, bring back some new good bacteria. And that's where we use specific types of antibiotics. Timing is important here. So I didn't say probiotic. I didn't say probiotics first. I said we got to remove the bad guys. Then we have to repair. And that's where we've talked about the 4 R's here. It's in one of our episodes.
Yeah, but you just said replace with antibiotics. We're not replacing with antibiotics.
Oh, yeah. No, not antibiotics. My bad. Yeah.
Probiotics.
Yes, probiotics. Thank you for catching.
Yeah, not at the beginning, but we are replacing with probiotics at the right time with the specific ones we want.
Correct. And the timing is important often. And the reason I mentioned that in this scenario, because I believe this is part of the situation in this lady's health journey, is that she's been on the same probiotic for years. Okay. Most likely it's an overpopulated situation at this point. So very frequently she feels bloated. Okay. And this is very, very common. So that's what we have to look out for. So we can overpopulate because we're taking the same strand, the same species, just over and over and over again. And that's why it is important that we sometimes pause, often rotate our different probiotics, and often know that we want to put them in a garden that's worthy of having some good stuff. So again, just the analogy of if we have a garden out in the back of our house, and it's a mess, we've got to go clean it up first. We got to rake everything out. Spanish black radish, maybe some hydrochloric acid, using things to get things out of there. Then we have to increase the quality of that soil. That's increasing things like the mucosal membrane. So that's ograpepsin. And then healing up that leaky gut. And that's where we use things like L-glutamine, and there's some other good things. That's the bone broths. That pathway there eventually leads us into using and making that garden worthy of planting seeds, which would be the probiotics. And then sometimes we got to make sure that we don't just put copious amounts of tomato seeds, right? And that's what some people do. And I understand, because a lot of times you just hear, we need probiotic, we need probiotic, we need probiotic. And yeah, I'm a fan of probiotics, and there is a time and a place and an amount that serves us and does not serve us. So if that's you out there and you are eating really good, and there's two more comments I want to make on this. If you're eating really good, you really got it dialed in. I want to make sure that your pattern of eating is decent, meaning that you're, just like we mentioned, you're not eating while you're stressed, because those are different enzymes that get released, different set up for the gut itself. And making sure that, especially, and we're going to tap into this a little bit too, because I think there's a question tonight about fasting, that if you are fasting, that when it's time to eat, you're not like shoveling it down, like eating too fast and overeating in that short period of time, because that too can be very disruptive to the gut microbiome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. So in that, the second scenario, Karen, when they're where they're eating good and it's been a long period of time, so they've really got things dialed in that scenario, that is when using a food sensitivity test can be valuable.
Okay. Yeah, because there might be things that are bothering you that you don't realize.
Correct. I don't like, and I've said it here on the show before, I'm not always a huge fan, and I have all the tests, we run them all the time. I'm not a huge fan of investing your money in a test that I don't know that I'm really going to get accurate results. And if you've got a really poor diet. So if you're not in God's garden already, then I probably would almost try to talk you out of a food sensitivity test, because God's garden only tests for, the food sensitivity test only tests for basically what's in God's garden, of the foods we commonly eat. So we have to be doing good things, like putting good things, and then find out, do we have sensitivities to these foods you might be eating that are good for you? Like you might have a sensitivity to coconut oil. You might have a sensitivity to garlic. Yet we're only really going to see those accurate results when the diet is relatively clean to begin with. So this young lady, she left our office today with what we call a FIT test, a food sensitivity test. And when we get those results back, we'll get back those. So then when we kind of navigate and create the strategy for the 4 R's for repairing her gut up, it won't be that difficult to say, all right, you're already in this paradigm of eating healthy foods, but we may remove a couple of these here and there based on your results.
Yeah, no, I love that. Awesome. And I think it's such a, I mean, gut issues are so common. People have so many gut issues. So I think it's a good reminder as well to think about how you're eating as opposed to just what you're eating.
So much. Almost every single time when I do the consults, and especially when I do, our virtual appointments, and I sit down, I have an opportunity to really have a nice conversation with people about lifestyle. And so often when I click boxes, and I have forms that people click boxes, but then I have a conversation. It's almost like, for a moment, I put everything aside and we just talk. Yeah. And when I talk about the environment around eating, more often than not, it is not very conducive to being a good digester. It's not very conducive to being very aware of what your body would even be telling you. And that sometimes it's the simplest stuff. A mom could be making food for their kids nonstop, and they're running in and out. They're going to baseball practice, soccer, dance, whatever it may be. And they're trying to get them in and out of the house, and they're getting them fed, and they're eating with them, or whatever that looks like. Or it's in between travels, or it's in between jobs, or who knows. But rarely is, I see, and it's sad, I see less and less true family meal times. This seems to get
at
less.
A table. Yeah.
No phones, at a table with family, having good old family conversation where you're just sitting down for an hour, maybe 2 hours, and just conversing. I don't see it much. Yeah.
No, I can't imagine. It's definitely getting less and less. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, I think there's some good reminders for all of us. I can definitely always think more about how I eat. I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that rush around sometimes, for sure, when it comes to how I eat. So should we move on to some of these questions?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay. So the first one, I mean, as you said, it kind of leads into, or kind of follows in from what we were talking about in one of your clinical insights. So I'm deep in perimenopause with irrational cycles. I find myself overwhelmed with life and I'm physically exhausted. Are there any supplements or herbs you would recommend?
All right, a couple things. We'll break this apart a little bit. First of all, for those of you not familiar with what perimenopause is, it's the time period where the woman's body starts to change between having a normal like once a month cycle to starting to just change. And then really what's happening, the ovaries are beginning to retire. That's really what they're going to do. And eventually over time, they're going to retire completely, and they're going to give all of their job to another part of your body, which is called your adrenal glands. And so your adrenal glands will be responsible for making your hormones. So we'll keep that in the back of our minds, understanding that. And we've talked a fair amount about that, but that's the biggest challenge moving forward for any woman that's in perimenopause is adrenal support. That being said, there's a lot of other things here. So the irregular cycle is expected. That's because what's happening is the ovaries are going on vacation for 2 weeks at a time, for a week over here, 3 weeks over here. They got a lot of time off owed to them. So they're taking it, and they're taking it at random times. And we fight it typically because we think that, we're supposed to have a period every 28 days. Yeah, that's not the way it's going to shake down. Hopefully they're not super PMS orientated, but that is part of it. The one thing I can't do accurately tonight is if someone says, do I have a single protocol or do I have herbs that are best for it? The truth is, Karen, every single woman is so different in this situation that is one of the scenarios. One, I would say this: you do not have to travel this journey by yourself. You probably won't have the mental capacity to do it. There's going to be times that as a woman going through perimenopause, you may have what you consider out of body experiences where your hormones are they're just doing weird things to you and your mind and your body. And to understand that this too will pass, it's important. So don't try to take this journey on your own. I would strongly encourage you to get with, even if you're doing great right now, quite frankly, and you're 40, 42 years old, 40, whatever, and things are still normal, know that change is coming. And preparing for that change is one of the most important things. So there's no one formula, but get with someone, most functional medicine practitioners, someone that's doing clinical nutrition, kinesiology, most of them are very familiar with the transition into menopause. And it's going to be specific. So with the ovaries, there's almost always some adrenal issues here. There's almost always a gut issue here. There's almost always excess hormones built up in the liver, like excess estrogens. Very often there's a thyroid imbalance, and they really all have to be addressed, and can be. And by themselves, the individual would be completely overwhelmed, and they are. By the time, oftentimes when I see my office, the beauty is now, we get so many referrals. I get a lot of women now that come to me and saying, my friend has been working with you perimenopause and said I should probably at least have a conversation developing a strategy. How do I navigate perimenopause? How do I navigate the fact that my ovaries are going to retire?
So they're reaching out before they get into this stage, before they start getting symptoms.
Not everyone, but yes, they are. So more now than ever, which is absolutely fantastic. So whether it's because they're watching the show, we're talking about it, or other people are just encouraging them to do it, because there is a lot going on there. And the other challenge here is that it's a moving target. There is even the strategy you set off with. Let's just say perimenopause starts for you at 42 years old. The strategy you're using between 42 and 45 could change between 45 and 50. So it's a dynamic road as your body goes through changes. So, and it doesn't have to be a bad one, but trying to think of it, Karen, think of yourself as a young woman, and you get a thyroid test. You find, man, I have some hypothyroids. Maybe that's the reason from all of my issues with my hormones. And then you find out, well, based on the symptoms, it sounds like I have bloating, I have IBS, I have some constipation. Man, I must have leaky gut as well. And yes, you do. And then you find out that you're a little bit estrogen dominant, really because your progesterone is low. So you have hormone imbalance. Yes, you do. But really that's because they're all getting conjugated in the liver. And there's so many, it goes so deep. And that's what your practitioner's for. They know that. They know how to navigate that for you, because your brain's not going to be super sharp at this point. And having someone help you out with that. So that's my recommendation for the individual that they find themselves overwhelmed Listen, you don't have to figure it out. That's our job as a practitioners. Unfortunately, a lot of us have a lot of experience in perimenopause and never wanted it. Never thought. And I think I've mentioned that here. I always figured, man, I'll be, all in athletes and professional athletes and sports and everything. Here I am, probably predominantly my practice is perimenopausal women.
Yeah.
And that is probably the number one seekers of health right now in our country, who are looking for optimal health, which I absolutely applaud. It really is. They're saying, listen, I'm not done. I'm 40, 50 years old, whatever, and I'm not done. I feel like there's still a lot of fire here, and they just want to navigate that road. So I encourage, if you're in that category, you don't have to walk this path by yourself. Reach out, find a practitioner. I'd love to help you. And same thing, we could do, virtual consults, whatever it takes, it's available out there for you.
Yeah, because you ship lab tests all around the country. People can jump online. It's super easy to work with anyone these days.
Yes. And all of those things are on the table. Like, we may have to run labs.
Yeah.
Sometimes, Karen, the thing is, if I'm able to find the woman in the moment where they're not so deep in that they're almost in panic mode, and I can have a really good conversation and map out to help them understand what is their body really going through. Sometimes I say, this is going to sound crazy, and some other practitioners will disagree with me. I'll say, hey, listen, let's pump the brakes on all the labs.
Yeah.
I know exactly what they're going to show us. I know that they're going to be upside down and backwards.
Yeah.
And they're going to change. So save a fair amount of money right now, and let's put some of these strategies in play that we know we have to have. We have to sleep.
We have to do anyway, no matter what comes back,
no matter what comes back in those labs. That there's some very, very fundamentals. Now, of course, if I think that there's simple things that need to be, like, maybe we need to address iron levels, and that's very common. Those are more that, which is, again, if you've been cycling for 30 and 40 years, you know what? You're probably borderline anemic. And so that's part of the protocol that I almost bring all women on, is a plant-based iron source that is very easy to absorb and bind to the body. And you never builds up too much. So we're not putting heavy metal into the body. So there's just some simple strategies. And, like, for example, that one gives women a little more strength through the course of the day.
What do you think of iron infusions compared to taking supplements for iron?
I'm not a super fan of them, Karen. Iron's a heavy metal.
Yeah.
And it's very important that we understand the best that we can, the biochemistry of it and the relationship that it has to other chemicals, things like copper and iron and zinc. Well, zinc, there's a relationship between those, where if you put in too much, this is a classic example. You put in too much iron, it pulls all the copper out of the body. Your adrenals are on, they're going to tank. Copper is incredibly important for your adrenal system. So when people start taking high levels of iron, thinking that I'm going to take this iron to help make better red blood cells and I'm going to have better energy, well, they're sacrificing at the same time. And that's where using synthetics gets a little tricky. So I typically use more of a plant-based iron source, and also make sure that your ferritin receptors, which receive it, are going to be able to be welcoming that iron. A lot of times, just because we have high circulating iron in the blood doesn't mean it's being bound. And that's why that iron panel can be very effective in helping us recognize what and where the deficiencies could be.
And so, even because often that's something that doctors recommend when you get really low in iron, right? They're like, do an iron infusion, but that can have some. Yeah.
I see less and less of that, because we know, we're seeing less, at least maybe it's just the world I'm living in. Which is highly possible, right? Maybe it's taking place in a lot of other situations. Yet I see less and less recommendations for that, and I think it's because we know that's in a very, very aggressive way, and there's a lot of other ways to achieve the same result and get the optimal function out of the human body and the cell, the red blood cell, without taking an iron infusion.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Should we go to the next question?
Let's do it.
Okay, I've been fasting 18 hours. So doing 18-hour fasts every day religiously for 8 months. I have had great success with weight loss, but I think I've recently hit a plateau. Do you have any suggestions?
Yes, I do. I hear this often and daily. Okay. So a couple things. One, a little bit different if it's a male or female.
Okay.
Yet 18-hour fast every day is not a good plan. It's not my plan. I didn't give that strategy. So, I want to go kind of the basics about fasting here. So I love intermittent fasting. I love it for many reasons. Weight loss is one of the side effects in the front end of intermittent fasting, but that won't create an ongoing weight loss solution. Yet it's phenomenal for things like helping your microbiome get better. It's helping repair mitochondria. So there's a lot of other benefits. If you set out with intermittent fasting and its goal is to become your weight loss tool, you have about 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
And typically within that 30 to 60 days of doing your intermittent fasting, that's about when you're going to kind of, meet your capacity with weight loss. Doesn't mean that the rest of the goals and what else is going to happen in your body isn't good, because actually I think that's when some of the best stuff happens. Yet 18 hours a day is not a typical protocol. Remember, let's walk this way back. And what we're trying to do with intermittent fasting, what we've discovered with this, and it's really come to light these last couple of years, that if we mimic what our DNA is used to, and that mimic means that we are used to feast and famine.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that feast and famine wasn't necessarily taking place on a daily, like a 24-hour clock. It was taking place on a seasonal clock.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So it kind of looked like this. In the summer and in the fall, there was an abundance of food.
Yeah.
Seeds, fruits, flowers, plants, vegetables, animals, deer, elk, whatever, right?
Everything. Yeah.
Everything was available. And then all of a sudden, come the winter, all the crops die, the fruit goes away, the lakes freeze over, all the animals go into hibernation, and you start fasting.
Yeah.
This is what our DNA is very typical to. And then in the spring, it gets really gnarly, because maybe we were intelligent enough to really, like a bear, kind of plump up over the late summer, fall into the winter, just try to survive what's going to be the abandoned, barren, fields come the springtime. So spring was typically the biggest fast, like the end of winter into spring. So those are some of the best times for us to really incorporate intermittent fasting, the spring. Once things start to grow, our DNA gets this. Remember, the body's been around for thousands and thousands of years. There's circadian rhythms, circadian clocks, and our bodies still abide by these things. So it is very difficult for our bodies to try to fast during the middle of the summer. It's just not designed that way, because there's so much abundance. So if you're trying to fast during the summer, now you're kind of working against the natural intuition of the body. All right, with all that being said, so what happens is, if we're fasting 18 hours, and Karen, I literally hear this every day, because what happens is people get success in the beginning. And I fell prey to this. I always feel good when I'm fasting. I feel better often than when I start to eat. Now it's better, because now I eat better choices and not eat as much. But if you fast every day for 18 hours or 16 plus hours, eventually your body gets really into a set point theory, and it recognizes you're not going to be fed, and it just starts to hold on.
Yeah.
And I watch people, I'm not going to say harm their metabolic system, but they put it on they're teaching it.
Yeah.
They're teaching you, I'm going to feed you every 18 hours. So just hang on until I feed you. And our bodies are so adaptive. That's exactly what they need to do. So with that being said, we need to have feast days. And I've talked a lot about this, how important this is. So if you are fasting, I still love fasting. I love it for so many reasons. 16, 18 hours on a regular basis for guys typically works pretty good. Typically, not everybody. Women typically are really good between 14 and 16 hours. And again, always working up to that 12 hours should be a bare minimum for everybody. And we always need to incorporate at least 2 feast days. That's what I found helps the body stay in a kind of like a flex mode. I don't know where I'm at. And then really start to flex that. So I typically in the past was, even though I was flexing, I was very rigid. Wednesdays and Saturdays were my feast days. Even though I'm saying I'm trying to flex it a little bit, bend it around. Yeah. And at least those days, what'll happen is I would eat earlier and I would eat more often, still healthy food. I can call them cheat days. It's always God's garden. And in those days, my body would then go, oh, you're not in starvation mode. And shockingly what happened. And then you activate the metabolic system again. It says we have an abundance of food. Go ahead and start churning and burning again. So that's number one. If you're fasting 18 hours a day, you've been doing for 8 months, I do expect to hit a plateau. Wouldn't surprise me if you started gaining weight.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's
So
going to be.
this person needs to mix it up, needs to incorporate some feast days.
Yes. Yeah. Metabolic flexibility is really what they're striving for. So incorporate some feast days, incorporate some fasting days, change up the schedule, never eat by your watch. That's being more intuitive. There's some days where if you haven't rested, and this is a big problem as well, I'll see people who've had long nights, maybe they traveled, stressful nights, kids kept them up, they sleep 5 hours and they still fast.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because then it's double stress on your body.
Absolutely, Karen. And then your body produces more cortisol. So you think you're doing a good thing and you're going, oh, I'm just going to fast this out. I know I'm tired. I know my body's saying eat a little bit. Yet because your body has no energy because you haven't slept and you're not feeding it, it then tells the body to produce cortisol, stress hormone, tells the liver to release sugar. It's like you're eating a sugar pop anyways. So this is where I see most of the problems. So learning how to flex a little bit, not being so rigid with it. Again, I love it. Most likely your intermittent fasting weight loss goals will be achieved in the first 30 to 60 days. And then from there, you can maintain it great. You might lose some more over time, but you're definitely going to have to mix it up. Last but not least on that one, again, how we eat. And so often I see when it comes time, they're waiting. It's, 17 hours and, 59 minutes and 55 seconds. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, and then boom, they eat big and fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that style is very, very common. And I see that happen a lot of times.
It sounds really healthy for anybody, really, does it? I mean, because also the body doesn't know that it was like the difference between 17 hours and 55 minutes to 18 hours. Like there's no, that's made up by us.
We 100%, we've made that up. So we know that there are different, like once you get past 24, 30 hours, then we have more of a opportunity to fight, cancer cells and kill those. So we do know things like that, but there's different times for different fasting. So just in general,
goals, but they're specific.
Yes.
There might be some specific strategies for a specific condition. That's why we're using fasting in this way.
Again, collectively, I am a double thumbs up when it comes to using intermittent fasting as a strategy for our overall health, time restricted healing. There's never been a time in society or in our cultures that people ate all the time. We know that. And there's never been a time that people have denied food. So, to purposely say, I'm not going to eat for the next 2 days is not really like very natural. And I get why we have to do that. So, but in general here, you got to mix it up.
Yeah, love it. Okay. So our next question is, I work in a business that uses a lot of cleaning chemicals. Is there something that I can take to protect myself from chemical exposure? Oh man, that doesn't sound like a great job for me.
No, but the challenge is, I think, Karen, even if you didn't have a lot of chemicals, like say hair salons, but this is the big ones, hair salons, nail salons, those are like the biggest. If you're a painter, golf courses, yeah, huge. So I know it looks all green and beautiful out there, but there's more pesticides in the golf courses and the homes around golf courses and the waters, really significant. So please do pay attention to those. So a couple of things with the chemicals. If you know you're sensitive to them, this is actually an appropriate time to wear a mask if you're cleaning with chemicals. Solid. Like when you see the spray coming out like that, like you can block those molecules.
Okay.
So solid opportunity to use a mask and be effective for you. Same thing with the glove, because remember our skin is porous. So if you wear some gloves in this time and you're cleaning with the chemicals in a mask, listen, that's the time that we should be using them. That's when we're spraying those chemicals around. Aside from that, there are things that you can help facilitate in your body so you can handle chemicals better. The challenge is that the chemicals nowadays, they're making them smaller and smaller, which is more and more dangerous. That's not better for us. So when sometimes I hear people say, well, it's blah, blah, blah size, and it's like this big of a nanoparticle, whatever. That's more dangerous because it gets unrecognized by the immune system and can cross the blood-brain barriers. It can cross our cell wall. That's when we run into trouble. So our goal, our strategy is, how can we increase the drainage in the body?
Okay.
So one of my favorites, so we're really thinking about how do I get my lymph system? How do I get my gut? How do I get specifically my liver to increase drainage? The best, we've talked a lot about here in the show, milk thistle, one of my favorite and really safe for just about everybody out there that you can use milk thistle. Does liver detox. That's what detoxification is, helping get things drained back out. And then also liver repair, phenomenal. There's some other herbs I like here, specifically if it is orientated with chemicals. And one herb is called astragalus.
Okay.
Yeah. And so for an extreme event, I'll use that in like chemo cases and radiation cases. But if you know you're sensitive to chemicals, then using those herbs, either, you could use them proactively, like right before you're going to like go to, clean your house or something. If you're showing up for work every day, we made an immune tonic with this in mind to help support the body's response so we can modulate the amount of different environmental stressors. And so that has a combination of echinacea, which is another great herb. Some of the herbs here really, really work very effective in helping us detox, but trying to drain. I use another thing called Antranex. That's a beef liver extract that helps things drain, especially if you're producing histamine. I want to make one other kind of, it's going to seem a little bit odd, yet we all have a different response to chemicals. And clinically, what I find is different people have different constitutions are more sensitive.
Okay.
So that being said, it becomes more and more obvious the longer I've practiced. So if you are a person of longer and leaner in stature, meaning that you're kind of just like a lean, you don't have to be necessarily taller, but you're a lean individual, just kind of thin, skinny, if you want to call it. And you have always had sensitivities to drugs and medications. You're also going to have those sensitivities to chemicals. This could literally be like a bleach you're spraying to clean up, I don't know, dog pee, I don't know, whatever, right? Just something. So we got to be mindful of all of these, because what happens to those individuals that have that high metabolic rate? So they're lean, they have good muscle tone, they're very vascular, they have a high metabolic activity in their body. And when they do this and the chemicals come in, it pushes them over the edge. So they have a hyper response to it. And it can really create a negative influence on hormones. So for those individuals, if you know you are chemically sensitive, stop fighting it and support it. That's the best advice I can give you. You stay away from those situations that there's going to be a bunch of sprays. If you're going to go and you get your hair colored, for example, you're several days prior, you're loading up on milk thistle. You're keeping your body clean. You're not getting near gluten. You're staying away from alcohol, because all of those things that create inflammation, Karen, are going to make this experience with chemicals twice as bad.
Yeah. Okay.
So best you can, help your body become a draining machine. Super hydrate, of course. Liver support would be number one, and anything that supports liver lymph flow, which is going to be breathing and movement.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Next question. I have a lingering, annoying cough that I believe is from COVID. Do you have any suggestions to help alleviate this?
I saw one of these today. I don't know if it's the same question, probably not, with similar circumstances. So in these coughs, there's really two things that we're seeing. So there is a cough that could have been caused by actual damage to the lung tissue, the lung field. And that's they had COVID, or they had something in the past. Maybe they had a little bit of pneumonia with their COVID, and they create a little bit of a fibrotic tissue, a little bit of maybe they cough nonstop. Maybe they created a little bit of a scar tissue in there. And as that tissue, that lung tissue should normally be very pliable, and all of a sudden it becomes hard. So when they're using, they might be talking, and then because it's scar tissue, it doesn't flex as well, and it gives them this sensation of cough. And I see this a lot. So that's one cause of it. And we'll talk about remedy in just a moment. The second is that there's still an underlying issue here. So coughing is part of the innate immune system, no different than sneezing and tearing, that your innate immune system uses a cough to expel bad guys, to expel mucus. I know we think that's gross, but that's one of the reasons that we want to cover our mouth, is because we are expelling things out of our body. Typically that's mucus. So you got to find out, are you still having a white blood cell response? Are your white blood cells still fighting? And so if that cough is often coming with, I'm still run down from this, then we have to kind of address the immune part of this. And I've seen this 4 months after for some people, that they're migrating back into lifestyle, but they never really get there because their body's doing a good enough job of not letting the bad guy, the virus or the bacteria, really spread its wings, but they're still not fully recovering. In the event that it is from the first one that I talked about, where we've created a little damage to the lung field, then I do use, and again, it's not medical advice here tonight, yet we use for our clinic and for our peeps, we often use something called the pneumotrophin PMG. Okay. And yeah, so this is very specific for lung tissue. And this will help kind of regenerate. That's not even the right word. Kind of nurture that tissue to help. And I see it so effective with that very cough that you're talking about, like that, that clearing of the throat, that chronic cough. Not the whole like coughing episode. You can tell like that person doesn't seem well. Like they should not be in public. But they might be in the back of a yoga studio, or they might be just in an environment where there's other people, and they're getting that cough frequently. That's the individual that usually benefits greatly from something like pneumotrophin PMG. And there's different dosing for different people, but that product is very, very good at helping restore some natural health back into those lungs.
Awesome. Is that the same for if you cough a bit in the morning? What about when you wake up, people cough a bit?
That's usually the second one, Karen. That's your body just clearing. That's your body going, man, there's stuff in here, and I'm going to kick it out there. Often that's a food derivative. Okay. Where we're having an inflammatory response by something we put into our body, or the second part of this is a big or. It could be something that's in the environment. Could be the pillow.
What you're sleeping.
Could be your pillow. Could be your sheets. Could be the chemicals on your sheets. It could be the overhead air. You maybe need to change an air filter, but you're breathing something in. Your body's having an immune response to it. You produce some mucus. In the morning, you kick it out.
Yeah. Okay. Love it. We've got a question here in the chat. I'm having a calcium score test at the end of the month. What's the protocol if there is buildup?
For every one of us, it'll be a little bit different because we want to find out why. So good for you for having this calcium score. That it's really, the goal is 0. And if
what is the calcium score test?
So calcium score test is really great test. It's not an end all, but it should be a gold standard. That literally is a scan to find out whether or not you have calcium buildup in your arteries.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's one of the best tests to find out if you have, calcium derivative, like around the heart, built up in the carotid or, the vertebral arteries. Phenomenal test. It lets you know if you have, plaquing, essentially. Calcium, think of really what we think of plaquing building up inside the arteries. So it gives you some insight. Now, really in that situation, if you do, don't panic. Get with someone instead of like be giving everyone today like one specific. We want to look at the whole profile. That's where we want to run a little bit of lab work, and we'd want to look at where's that calcium coming from. Is there a plaquing issue due to an excessive cholesterol buildup? Are the triglycerides too high? Do we have some imbalances taking place? Is there some insulin resistance taking place that is causing triglycerides to go high, even though your diet's good at this point in your life? So that's, Karen, I love that question. I love that they're thinking that way. I love more and more people are looking for opportunities to say, you know what, I'm going to test something. I know it can be a little scary. And if you do get that result, no big deal. I love that they're asking this question. I wish I could just give you a simple do this or do that. Yeah. If you find out that score is anywhere above 0 and you want to improve it, get with someone that's familiar with, and we do it all the time for our clients. We'll do a Zoom meeting typically, and we look at the whole strategy because it's involved in everything, the type of nutrition you have, exercise involved, sleeping patterns, a little bit of everything, history here, medications that you may be on. And we sit down and create a strategy and help your body reabsorb that calcium. And that can happen, which is beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Got another question here. Are there any certain supplements to take for back pain, muscle or sciatica?
Yes. So just in general, and so there are some great things for natural relievers for pain and whatnot. back pain is a beast. It's like, I think back pain is the number one cause for doctor's visits in our country.
Wow.
It's like back pain and stomach, something like that.
Crazy.
Anyways, that being said, there are some really good things. So I'll give you a couple of things that help your body reduce the amount of inflammation in the body. And hear me out, because this is legit when it comes to pain in the body. One, got to clean the diet up. First, I know, I know I'm broken record,
Oh,
but this is
so true. My back pain
critical here.
so it's just so dependent on what I eat.
Yes.
Like, I don't know. I've just found that massively.
So I have this gentleman that's in right now, and he came in as a chiropractic patient first, and then we also set up a Zoom where we're going to dive deep into strategies to become superhuman. And he said, "Can you give me anything?" And I was like, "No, you got to wait." He's like, "Come on, just give me one thing." And I was like, "All right, fine." I'm like, "Listen, we're not going to meet for 7 days. Go off gluten for 7 days." Sure enough, when he got to the thing, he lost 6 pounds just changing gluten.
Yeah, amazing.
But the cool thing is, he said, "Doc, you know what? My knee pain, both of them gone." So
it's crazy. Like, I talked about it and then didn't really, I don't know, believe it inside until I actually took some of this stuff out.
Yeah. So if you're
and then
eating
you're like,
food,
oh, my back doesn't hurt anymore. Like, oh.
so if we're eating foods that are pro-inflammatory, that's the first strategy. And I will give you a couple of supplements here, because these are just in general that help reduce or help manage the inflammatory process within the body. Manage is the right word here, not eliminate altogether, because inflammation is part of the immune response. So we want to manage the inflammatory response and modulate pain. There's some phenomenal things for that. So let me give you some cool ones. So first of all, a solid fish oil, meaning a consistent amount of high quality fish oil. My favorite is old school cod liver oil. I dose that up pretty good. I get at least between 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams per day. One of my absolute favorite for the inflammatory process is in inflammatory management is really turmeric forte. Yeah. What's unique about the one we use here, Karen, that is bound to fenugreek. And of all the ones I've used for all the years, I found this is single-handedly the best to help reduce. But by reducing it, inhibiting the amount of inflammation that's being caused, the kind of the hyper response, that's what downregulates the pain. So that's number two. Then, if you have nerve pain, because I think this person said something about
muscle and sciatica.
Okay, sciatica can be a beast. That's if you've had sciatica pain before, and I have, it can be It can be life-changing, because it's such a large nerve and can be so intense. It can really kind of like best way, just really mess up.
Yeah, it hurts.
Yeah. So, and it often interferes with sleep. So there's one that we use called the Nervagesic, which is absolutely fantastic. Nervagesic is a combination herbal. It has California poppy, has Jamaica dogwood in it, has cordialis, some of the three absolute best pain modulators, but also they are relaxers. So they basically chill you out.
Yeah, nice.
So the beauty is they're pain relieving, and they will also help you sleep. And that's called Nervagesic. And what's nice about that particular one, take it as you need it. Usually you need 2 or 3 at a time, and you can do that a couple times a day. And especially if you're just losing sleep because of pain, that's absolutely fine. It's literally my go-to. I'm in a role right now where I haven't had to use it for, knock on wood, literally I'm probably going like 2 months, which is long for me not to have like I have dogitis, which is when dogs sleep all over you, and then you get from dogs.
Yeah. Dogitis. I like it.
Dogitis. There's another one that I have to mention here. It's called Salagesic. And Salagesic is really nature. It comes from willow bark. And that's what they mimic aspirin after. So it's phenomenal. This isn't just for like back pain, but it's phenomenal for pain. I'll often combine the two if there's a lot of pain and I have nerve pain and I'm, having an issue sleeping, and they all seem to go together. And I use my clients all the time. And same thing. These are phenomenal just to have on your home medicine cabinet and use as needed.
Yeah.
And the beauty is, as those pains go away, and it's a really nice alternative to see that you can get success and you don't have to necessarily use drugs. And these aren't going to have the same negative impact on your gut that some, different drugs will. So it's a really nice alternative, and you still get the relief that you're looking for. So none of them hold the same bang or, punching power as, like oxycodone and stuff like that, nor are we
Oh, yeah.
trying to. Yeah. So when people say, well, man, it didn't work like my Percocet did, wasn't supposed to. Yes.
Sometimes like turmeric and fish oil, even just those two can kind of almost work like that. Like I've found they can be quite helpful.
Yeah, that's my typical go-to. Honestly,
Yeah.
that's on a regular basis. And again, I use my body a lot. And this past weekend, I literally in the heat spent probably 12 hours and
Out at
just
the farm.
out the farm. And Karen, this time it was old school axe in hand, cutting down trees. There was a part of me, it was, I know I'm side topic here, but it was just kind of one of those moments that it felt so good. And it was so raw to use an axe, where just over there in my garage, there was a chainsaw, which could
But you use the axe instead.
easily could have been, yes. I was having just so much fun of just
Thrashing wood.
Yeah, actually, my chainsaw broke. My chainsaw was working properly. I probably would have used it, but it was so much fun. But by the end of the night, like everything in my body hurt just like to take my shoes off. And it's okay for us to have pain sometimes, and we can't avoid pain. We have to have pain. And I knew that every ounce of my body was like, I have not done something physical like that. It's the most awkward movement. You're twisting and, the trees beating the hell out of you and all that stuff. So it's okay to have pain. So the next day I woke up. So I took a copious amount. I'll take 4 or 5 sometimes. And that's not even the dosing I recommend for people, but I took a fair amount, and I took a whole bunch of my fish oil, super hydrated, got a great night's sleep. Boom, wake up the next day and bring it back on, baby. Here we go. So
what about, actually, we haven't had a knee update in a long time.
Knee update. So yeah, so the knee is doing pretty good.
Okay.
So so you brought that up.
Maybe I should have asked.
No. So, I would love to say that, man, it's just fixed, and it's not. So I work every morning. I go through a routine with my knee, my knees for balance, and my knee flexibility and my hip flexors are probably as good as they've ever been.
Okay,
And,
amazing.
Yeah, which is really good. So now I can jump in and out of the back of my truck right now. So there's not a lot that I'm limited to do, other than there are certain postures my knee can't do. Well, if I do them, it's counterproductive. And one of them is one of the favorite. There's 2 favorite things I love to do. I can't go into my pigeon posture. Yeah. There are some modifications that I can do to help that same posture to open up the hips. And I can't kickbox or do jujitsu. Yeah. So I'm not doing those yet, but I found I've been.
Pigeon's quite strong on your knees, though, isn't it?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. And so I've been funneling that same energy and really optimistic about the opportunities moving ahead. I really think that I went and got an MRI. I was getting frustrated, and I've talked a lot about what happens under frustration. We often make bad decisions.
Yeah.
So I caught myself frustrated. I went and got an MRI, and I was like, oh, this is it, man. I'm just going to go get that. And I pumped the brakes, and I really thought about it. And for me in my life, I'm not willing to risk the potential, because once you do surgery, there is no turning back.
Yeah.
So if I have like a meniscus, surgically done, even though they're done every day, there's literally millions probably done a day, and a lot of people are successful. There are sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
That is just not what I'm willing to risk at this point. And I think that could be a good clinical insight to say, listen, you don't have to rush with your health.
Yeah.
And that has been one of the biggest lessons right now for me. I can't run either, but I can bike. Yeah. So I ride a stationary bike every single morning. That's to get good blood flow into my legs. I do probably 15, 20 minutes of these deepest knee lunges that I've ever done in my life. And I load my knee with as much weight as I possibly can. And so the strength is there, stability there. I lug logs and all that kind of stuff all over the farm. All that's good. And I think it's just going to heal up. I just think
it's going to take time. It's a big injury to it. Like it's not going to heal in a couple of months.
Yeah. And there's more and more options. So there's other things I'm doing. I'm using some exosomes, which is fantastic. I've done some IV NAD. So there's a lot of other things that I'm incorporating for my overall health, which is part of my strategy anyways. So I'm not, the funny thing is this first conversation I've had about my knee, because it's almost become a non-conversation other than my jujitsu buddies and my sparring buddies are like, when are you coming back, dude? So, and I might even knucklehead it up. I might knucklehead it up and just be like, all right, I'm going to go back and this is my compromise. And I might train for a day or two and take a month or two off. I don't know. I don't know. So, but nonetheless, thanks for asking. And it's getting a little better every day, which is cool.
Yeah. You sounds like you've still got lots of movement in that. I mean, I know there's a few things obviously you can't do yet, but it's doing pretty good. If you can
it really is. It really
wood,
is.
Even that's still, you still got to be standing there.
Yeah. And you don't care. And a lot of the things like going out in the forest and doing all these things, it's very unpredictable. That's the other part of it. So there's not like perfectly flat ground, and there's a lot of weird things, and the ability to jump up. Like I have this big badass truck. So when I jump off the back tailgate, it's, I'm jumping 3-4 feet down, whatever. I don't know if it's that high, but nonetheless, where I couldn't have thought about doing that.
It is.
Yeah. Months ago, I wouldn't even consider doing that. And so, and this has been part of my journey as a healthcare practitioner, good, bad, or indifferent. So much of what I've been able to share with people and help people with are because I've been through so many of these experiences myself.
Yeah.
The level of back pain that I had when I was young was debilitating, literally debilitating, that I dealt with for 10 and 15 years. And to have that compassion, that experience, and know how I got myself through that and all the different things it takes to do that. And now having 3 bulging discs down to 0, and when that's a good example. I've been told 1,000 times, Bart can't do that. And my discs are fine. So when they say they can't, so just like regenerating different, parts of the body, often they say no, but they don't. Not every time has someone gone through all the different things that they're capable or willing to do. So I think this is just part of my learning process, and also I'll get to share with people. I talk a lot about it here. I think one of the biggest challenges we have in health in general, we're not patient.
Oh yeah,
and we
make everything. We're not patient.
And the decisions we make in haste, in that frustration and in that fear, are often ones that we, looking back, we shouldn't have done. And so maybe my knee episode is just to help my people be 1 ounce more patient with the process, because the body is such an amazing healing machine.
Yeah, I love that so much. We all need a reminder for that all the time, I think. Awesome. Well, that leads me into our last question. What's going to be our one action item our listeners can take to move them towards their goal of becoming superhuman?
After hearing all these questions here, I think really the question or the action is going to be continue to be more and more intuitive. It'll be about your diet, it'll be about your health, your physical being, whatever it may be. Be intuitive most of the time. Your question's already being answered. You just have to allow yourself to listen to it.
Yeah, love that. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back same time, same place next week for another episode of the Health Made Simple show.
Yes, and of course, I appreciate you guys all being here. Keep doing your thing, keep sharing it out, keep spreading the love. Never know which one little episode, word, or thing that I say or what Karen says is going to, change the life of someone else. So keep doing your thing. And of course, continue to take deliberate action for your mind, your body, overall wellness. Y'all be awesome.